The key arrived in a small brown envelope 11 years after Marcus disappeared. There was no letter, no return address, just a brass key wrapped in tissue paper. Anna knew it immediately.
The key to the blue house. The house where Marcus had lived, the house where he had once promised he would never leave her, and the house he had walked away from without explaining why. For 11 years, Anna had imagined hundreds of reasons: another woman, a secret debt, a second family, some terrible betrayal she had been too blind to see. But the key suggested something else, because if Marcus had wanted to erase the past, he could have thrown it away. Instead, he had kept it, and somehow 11 years later, he had decided she should have it. Anna turned the key over in her palm. There was something scratched into the metal. 3 words: "Look upstairs first." She read them again. Then she looked toward the ceiling. And, for the first time in 11 years, Anna wondered if Marcus hadn't disappeared from her life. Perhaps he had been leaving something behind. The blue house had belonged to Anna's grandmother. It stood at the end of a narrow road lined with old trees. The paint was peeling. The garden was always overgrown. And one of the upstairs windows had been stuck half open for as long as Anna could remember. Marcus loved the house. Anna never understood why. You could buy something newer, she used to tell him. Marcus would smile. New houses don't have stories. They had met when Anna was 32. Marcus was 35. Neither was looking for anything serious. That was what they told each other. Then came Sunday breakfasts, cans left on kitchen counters, books stacked beside the bed, a toothbrush that somehow became permanent. They built a life without announcing that they were building one. Marcus repaired the kitchen cupboard. Anna painted the hallway. They argued about money. They laughed about neighbors. They made plans that felt so ordinary they seemed permanent. One evening, Marcus came home carrying a box. Anna looked inside. "What's this?" "Wallpaper." "For what?" "The upstairs room." Anna frowned. "What upstairs room?" Marcus smiled. "The one we haven't made yet. They had always used that room for storage." But Marcus wanted to turn it into something else. A reading room. Perhaps a place with a desk, a chair by the window, shelves on every wall. He had even drawn a rough plan. Anna kept it for years. Then one morning, Marcus left and never came back. There was no dramatic goodbye. That was what made it unbearable. Anna woke at 6:40. Marcus was gone. His side of the bed was cold. His coat was missing. So were his shoes. The car was gone. At first, Anna thought he had gone to work. Then she found the kitchen. His coffee mug was in the sink. Half full, the newspaper lay folded beside it. Everything looked normal, except for one thing. His keys were gone. All of them, except the spare key to the house that was still hanging beside the back door. Anna called him. No answer. She called again. Nothing. At 10:15, she called his office. He hadn't arrived. By noon, she was driving around the city. By evening, she was at the police station. There was no accident, no hospital admission, no sign of him. 3 days later, Anna received a message from an unknown number. It contained only one sentence. "Sorry, don't look for me." That was it. No explanation, no goodbye, just an instruction. Anna didn't obey it, not at first. She searched, she called friends, she visited places they had been together. She contacted every person she could think of. Nothing then. 3 weeks later, she received another message. "Please let me go." After that, there was nothing. And Anna spent the next 11 years trying to understand what those words meant. But the house key had just given her a new question. Why had Marcus kept the spare key, and what was waiting upstairs? Anna returned to the blue house the following Saturday. It had been empty since Marcus left. She had never sold it. She couldn't explain why. The house had become a kind of frozen room in her life. She paid the bills. She repaired what broke. She kept the garden from completely disappearing, but she rarely went inside. The key from the envelope fit the front door. Anna turned it. The lock clicked. The sound traveled through the hallway. She stepped inside. Dust covered the furniture. The air smelled of old wood. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. She walked upstairs. The door to the storage room was closed. Anna stood before it. For 11 years, she had never opened it. She had told herself there was nothing important inside. Now she knew that was a lie. The key in her hand felt heavier. She unlocked the door. The room was almost empty. Old boxes, a broken lamp, a rolled-up carpet. Then Anna noticed the wall. Behind the boxes, someone had painted a rectangle around one section. She moved everything aside. There was a small wooden panel, he in the wall. Anna touched it. It opened. Inside was a metal box, and on the lid, written in Marcus's handwriting, were 4 words, "For Anna." When ready, she sat on the floor. Her hands were shaking, because suddenly 11 years of silence had become something else, not an ending, a message. And Marcus had known exactly where she would find it, but if he had known, she would eventually open it. Why had he left it all? Inside the box was a photograph of Essex, Anna, and Marcus, standing in front of the blue house. She was laughing. Marcus was looking at her, not at the camera, at her. Behind the photograph was a note. "You always believed I left without saying goodbye." Anna stopped. She read the sentence again. "Then I didn't." Her heart began to race. There was more. "I said goodbye every morning for 6 months." Anna stared at the page. She didn't understand. 6 months. What did that mean? She searched the box. A second envelope, a bank statement, a hospital bracelet, a photograph of an elderly woman, and a newspaper clipping. Anna picked up the hospital bracelet. The name wasn't Marcus. It was Evelyn Hart. Anna knew the name. Marcus's mother. She had died 11 years earlier, 3 months before Marcus disappeared. Anna remembered the funeral. She remembered Marcus standing beside the coffin. She remembered asking him if he was all right. He had said, "I'm fine." She had believed him. Now she realized something. Marcus hadn't been fine. He had been breaking apart. And Anna had never seen it, but that still didn't explain why he left her. The answer was in the newspaper clipping. Anna unfolded it and read the headline. Her hands went cold. Handglobras. Denkelsicker local charity investigated after financial irregularities. Anna read the article. The organization one Marcus had volunteered with, the same organization where he had worked for several years. The article mentioned missing funds, an internal investigation. Several people questioned. Then she saw Marcus's name, not as a suspect, as a witness. Anna sat down. The room seemed to tilt. She read further. Marcus had discovered the missing money. Someone had been stealing from the charity, and Marcus had reported it. But the investigation had become complicated. Threats had been made, not directly against Marcus, against someone else, Anna. Her name appeared in a section about anonymous harassment. Someone had sent letters to the Blue House. Someone had followed Anna's car. Someone had been watching. Anna stopped reading. She remembered the strange calls. The envelope with no name. The car that had appeared outside the house. She had thought it was coincidence. Marcus hadn't. The note in the box continued. "I wanted to tell you. Then I saw what they were willing to do. And I became afraid that loving me had put you in danger." Anna couldn't breathe. For 11 years, she had believed Marcus had abandoned her. But the truth was beginning to emerge. He hadn't left because he stopped loving her. He had left because he believed his presence was making her a target. And still, Anna had one question, the most painful one. Why hadn't he come back? The answer was in the final envelope. Anna opened it. Inside was a letter, not 11 years old. Recent, written 3 months earlier. Marcus was alive. Anna's hands began to tremble. She read, "Anna, if you're reading this, then I've finally decided you deserve the truth." She stopped. The word deserve hurt. She continued. Marcus explained that after leaving, he had moved to another country. He had changed his name. He had worked different jobs. He had stayed away, not because he didn't miss her, because he did every day. But the investigation had never fully ended. The people involved had disappeared. One had been arrested, another had fled, and Marcus had spent years believing that when returning would put Anna at risk again. Then came the sentence that changed everything. "I didn't stay away because I wanted a life without you. I stayed away because I couldn't forgive myself if my life brought danger back to your door." Anna lowered the letter. For years, she had imagined Marcus walking away freely. She had pictured him choosing another life. Now she realized something more complicated. He had chosen a life without her, but he had never chosen to stop loving her. The distinction was unbearable. And yet, it changed everything. Then she reached the final paragraph, and this was where the story became something Anna had never expected. I know what you're going to ask. Why didn't I come back when the danger passed? Anna's eyes filled. She read on, because by then I had become a coward. She stopped. The room was silent. At first I told myself I was protecting you, then years passed. And every year made coming home harder. How do you explain 11 years of absence? How do you stand in front of the persons you love and say, I left because I loved you too much to risk losing you? When the truth is also that you were afraid to face what you'd done. Anna closed her eyes. There it was, the part she hadn't expected. Marcus hadn't been a hero. He had been afraid. He had protected her, and he had hurt her. Both things were true. The most painful truths are often the ones that refuse to become simple. Anna had spent 11 years searching for one reason, but there wasn't one. There were hundreds: fear, love, guilt, pride, Cordyce. And perhaps the most human reason of all, Marcus had waited too long. The letter ended with one sentence. If you still want to know where I am, the answer is inside the house. Anna looked up the house. She stood, and suddenly she remembered something. The upstairs room. The room Marcus had wanted to turn into a reading room. The room he had planned before he disappeared. She looked around. There was a desk, old, dusty, but still there. She pulled open the drawer. Inside was a book. The cover was worn. Anna picked it up. A photograph fell out, not of Marcus, of her, taken from behind. Anna standing in the garden. She turned it over. On the back was an address, and beneath it, I never stopped coming home. Honleray. The address was 3 hours away. Anna drove the next morning. She almost turned around twice, once at a petrol station, once at a crossroads. She didn't know what she was expecting, an explanation. An apology. A man who looked exactly as he had 11 years earlier. She knew better. Time changes everyone. Sometimes quietly, sometimes without permission. The address led to a small coastal town. There was a bookstore. Anna stopped outside. The sign above the door read, "The Blue Room." She pushed the door open. A bell rang. A man behind the counter looked up. He was older. His hair was gray, his face thinner, but Anna knew him. Marcus froze. For a moment, neither moved. Then he said her name, not Anna. The way strangers say it, the way someone says a name they have carried for years. She walked toward him. Neither of them hugged, not immediately. Anna placed the brass key on the counter. Marcus looked at it. I thought you might find it. 11 years. His eyes lowered. I know, you could have told me. I know, you could have trusted me to decide whether I wanted to stay. I know. Anna's voice broke. Then why didn't you? Marcus looked at her, and finally, after 11 years, he gave her the answer she had been waiting for. I was afraid that if I gave you the choice, you'd choose me. Anna frowned. What? Because if you chose me, I'd have to live with knowing I had brought you into it. She stared at him. Then she understood. Marcus hadn't trusted her to leave. He had been afraid she would stay. He had mistaken love for responsibility. He thought protecting Anna meant making the decision for both of them, and in doing so, he had taken something from her that he could never return. Her choice. Anna whispered, "You didn't save me." Marcus closed his eyes. I know. You decided for me. I know, and I spent 11 years thinking I wasn't worth staying for. His face changed. That was the moment Marcus finally understood the cost of what he had done. Anna wasn't angry because he had left. She was angry because his silence had forced her to invent a reason, and people almost always blame themselves when the truth is missing. Marcus reached for her hand. Anna let him, not because everything was forgiven. Not because the past had disappeared, but because sometimes touching someone's hand is simply a way of saying, I see what happened now. I don't have to pretend it didn't hurt. Hanvoldir, Enskers, they talked until the bookstore closed. Marcus told her everything. The investigations, the threats, the years of hiding, the shame, the loneliness. Anna told him about the life he had missed. Her mother's death, her promotion, the house, the garden, the years she spent wondering if she had been too difficult to love. Marcus cried when she said that. I never thought that. I know, but you should have told me. I know. That sentence appeared many times that afternoon. Perhaps that was was the real apology. Not one perfect explanation, just the willingness to finally stop defending the past. Before Anna left, Marcus took a key from his pocket, a different key. Small silver, what is that? The bookstore. Anna looked at him. Why are you giving it to me? Marcus smiled. Because I should have given you a choice 11 years ago. Anna looked down at the key, then back at him. Are you asking me to stay? No. The answer surprised her. Marcus shook his head. I'm asking you to decide. And for the first time in 11 years, Anna felt something inside her become quiet. That was the gift Marcus had failed to give her when he left. A choice, not an explanation, not an apology. A choice. She didn't stay that night. She drove home. She returned to the blue house. And just she went upstairs, the room was always waiting. The old desk, the dusty window, the empty shelves. Anna opened the curtains. Morning light entered. She understood then why Marcus had left the house key behind. It wasn't an invitation to follow him. It was a way of telling her, there is still something here that belongs to you. Not him, not the past, the choice. Postix. Months later, Anna returned to the bookstore. She didn't move there. She didn't abandon her life. She simply began visiting, sometimes for a weekend, sometimes for a few days, sometimes not at all. She and Marcus never became the people they had been before. They couldn't. Too much time had passed. Too many versions of themselves had existed without the other, but they began again, slowly, honestly, without promises they couldn't keep. One afternoon, Marcus asked her, Do you still hate the blue house? Anna smiled. No. Why? She thought about it. Because I finally understand what it was. What? A place where someone left. Marcus looked away. Anna continued. And a place where I stayed. Years later, Anna would still think about the day the key arrived. She had once believed the key was proof that Marcus had left something behind. She was wrong. The key was proof that he had finally stopped deciding what she was allowed to know. The meaning had changed. At first, it represented abandonment. Then it became a clue. Then it became an explanation. And finally, it became something much simpler. Choice, because sometimes the person who leaves without explaining isn't hiding one terrible secret. Sometimes they are carrying a complicated mixture of fear and love. Sometimes they are protecting you. Sometimes they are protecting themselves. And sometimes, painfully, they are doing both. But love cannot survive forever on decisions made by one person for another. You cannot protect someone by stealing their right to choose. You cannot decide what another person can bear. And you cannot assume that silence will hurt less than the truth. Anna had spent 11 years believing that Marcus's silence meant she hadn't been worth an explanation. Eventually, she understood something different. His silence had never been a measurement of her worth. It had been a measurement of his fear, and those are not the same thing. The blue house still stood at the end of the road. Anna kept it, not as a monument to the man who left, but as a reminder of the woman who had survived not knowing why. Every spring, she opened the upstairs window, the one that had been stuck for years. It took effort, the frame resisted. The paint had hardened around it, but eventually it moved. Fresh air entered the room, and Anna would stand there for a moment, looking out at the garden. She no longer wondered whether Marcus would return. She no longer needed the house to answer that question. Because some endings don't arrive when someone walks away. They arrive much later. On the day you finally understand that their leaving was never the full story, and some doors are not meant to be reopened. They are meant to teach you that you were never trapped behind them. You were always holding the key. Anna had spent 11 years believing Marcus was the one who had left, but now she understood. He had left the house. She had left herself. And coming home had never been about finding him. It had been about finding the part of herself that had been standing in that blue house all those years, still waiting for an explanation. When what she really needed was permission to choose what came next, so she chose, not the past, not the man she remembered, not the life they had planned. She chose the truth, and the truth was complicated. It was painful. It was imperfect. But it was finally hers. The house key remained in her drawer. She never threw it away, not because she was waiting for Marcus, but because every now and then she liked to hold it. To remember that the smallest objects can carry the largest stories. A key can mean someone left, a key can mean someone returned, and sometimes a key simply means that a door was never as closed as you thought.